Let's prepare for this session. This session has the following title. It'll be about fighting the threats and defending the databases. Yesterday I was for a moment here in Wrocław to deliver my keynote. Unfortunately, it's an extremely tight schedule on my side. So unfortunately, I couldn't be here in person, but I've got the feeling that it is very good if we have time to exchange thoughts and experiences. I do understand that you may spot some highlights, some keywords. Maybe you will find this session as not valuable because you know all of this. Or on the other hand, this might be quite a new opening chapter for you. That's okay as well. But I think it'll be good if we prepare for the session that will be related to this security of databases. I do know that it is not the one session devoted to this topic. And I believe it will be good if I ask you, let's start with the quick poll, the manual one. Are there any security researchers in the field of database threats or countermeasures? So database security all in all, as everyday job? Yes, I do know from my experience that even if there are experts, you are not raising the hands. I do understand. Okay, but if you feel that you would like to add some comments or remarks, it'll be very good. You may do it during the session or between the sessions. So we have 20 minutes break. I will add a few minutes more because I want you to have a chance to talk about the things that we are going to share in a moment. Okay, so I believe we're ready. We have the topic, and I will start, as always, with the agenda. And usually we start with the introduction. I have had the opportunity to talk about my interest yesterday, but I do understand that it'll be good if I provide some context, some info that will be useful from the perspective of this talk. We're going to cover database security basics, and I must admit that during the literature review, if I time travel through my experiences, I must say that there are a lot of universal, remarks, insights, best practices, and some of them are principal. They are filling the topic which is expressed in the point number 2. We have attacks. After my yesterday's keynote, Paweł Potasiński approached to me and said, you haven't mentioned about the slammer. Maybe you do remember the slammer virus, the year of 2003, I believe, right? The whole world experienced the need to provide a countermeasure promptly in order to stop this buffer flow attack. Okay, the slammer wasn't the only one, and usually we are hearing about some major data breaches, huge attacks, and how about the attempts? And thinking about the attacks, maybe we should add the potential attacks. We are aware that we are working in a connected world, and we have to think about the threats that are materialized as attacks, maybe coming from the network outside, or maybe then from the inside. We're going to talk about countermeasures. So on the left side, we have the threats, bad guys, and all of these negative things. And on the right side, we have the security countermeasures, security controls. We have some security policies, mechanisms. We have the potential to prevent, to detect, and maybe it will be necessary to bring the corrective controls in order to bridge the gap. Okay, we are going to share some best practices. I've just said that they are going to be universal, and maybe there will be a chance that you are going to share with us during the talk or after the talk your own experiences. You have your own best practices. I've just mentioned the year of 2003 and referencing again the historical version of Microsoft SQL Server 2000. I remember a great session delivered by Mark Minasi during the Microsoft Technology Summit conference. He was talking about the backups. Asking a lot of people, and how about the backups? How about today? You are present here, and how about this procedure? Do you perform this procedure? Yes. Have you verified the results? You are currently present in Warsaw during the conference, and how about the ongoing processes? It was about 20 years ago, but it is still valid. And finally, we will provide a summary, and I have a final thought. Okay, this is the agenda for today. Again, thank you for choosing this room. Feel free, if you decide to switch the rooms, it's okay from my perspective. I do understand there can be a lot of reasons. Okay, my background, okay, but this will be short. So today, I will share my experiences, which I gather during my activities. On the left side, you can see the 1753C, so ITSec community. I'm a founder and a board member. We have an association and we have a foundation, and we are building another pillar of our activities. And during our meetings of our community, we have a chance to grab some experiences. I must say that, I'm a CISO. I have a team of experts working on a given subject. Maybe it's a natural order of things, but if you are grabbing the experience in a given field, you are moving through the structure and you are ending as a manager, maybe. But I still feel the thrill when I have to explore some technical stuff. I do work as a lead auditor for the corporate group presented here, and I'm a university professor at one of the top universities in Poland. And if it is going about the company, it is related to auditing. If it is going about our university, I am providing in consultancy. So to grab the glimpse ahead, to go, towards the future. And if it is going about the SQL Server and data platforms, it's a part of it. I've just referenced the year of 2003. The Microsoft.NET platform, the SQL Server was the main component of this architecture. You might be thinking about the Microsoft Exchange server, about Microsoft SharePoint Portal server, about other .NET servers, and I think if it is going about our university and infrastructure, it is still important to keep the focus on the central point if it is going about the data platform. So I think that those experiences that I would like to share with you will be as a result of my thoughts and my previous experiences gathered through those three sort of activities. Our community, just one word, fantastic people, just like the data community. And what I've spotted is that it is very good if we listen to others people's experiences. We have a Discord server, and I can grab the knowledge from a lot of experts, more than 3,000. Well, I think it's good. It's great to have a chance to grab those information. And today I'm representing the 1753C, quite a new community, and I would like to invite you to cooperate with us. Okay, so I think two perspectives. The blue one, today I'm dressed in blue, and this will be the number one perspective, but I have decided to talk about the red perspective as well. So that we are going to talk about the defense, and we're going to talk about the attacks. So let's go. We have two approaches, and just to narrow my talk and provide you with just one single part of my professional life. Well, I have devoted my scientific activities into biometrics. And not far from biometrics is the world related to man-machine interaction. Maybe you can spot there some people very well known, like Olaf Shadalinska. We have a professor, the first cyborg present during the conference, talking about the challenges related to interaction between human and machine. I will not talk about neural computing, but I would like you to understand that it was at the core, if it is going about the security and the privacy of data that are explored and processed during my research. More than 20 years of experience in this field, and I think the closest will be to think about this as a medical data, personal data. So security is of utmost importance. And my research, of course, is related to data and to some specific challenges. I will not deep dive into those sub-challenges, but I think we can start with the input and go through this processing, and frequently it looks like this, but we are using the functionalities of a given data platform. Like imagine we have to build our first biometric authentication system. All right, this is the challenge. We have the iris biometrics, and we are posing the question related to what we can use as the elements in order to build such system. I believe that there will be some choices which will be based off something what is available to us. I mean, if I explore the potential of Microsoft Azure cognitive services, I can pick a lot. I can go to those frameworks, machine learning, and grab and build a system just like that. Of course, it might be the right choice. Of course, we can go and start from the scratch, but I think it will be very good if you do understand that thinking about the database security is very good if we provide the context. Maybe the context will be related to the question related to liveness detection. And how about this challenge and the choice of the functionalities of a given data platform, or maybe a given service? It's the human in the loop. You can see it here. And you may think about those biometric devices, those all advanced solutions, and still there is a valid question or challenge related to the human and how you can manipulate us as human beings. So security, I think it's a very interesting aspect that we're going to talk about. And yes, we are going to focus on database security, but this database is a part of something. On the left, here you can see all-in-one biometric system, right? It's obvious it's based on the fingerprint characteristics. This is a hardware solution. This is all-in-one hardware and software, and we have the database, no network connection. And if you'd like to talk about the security, let's start from the physical layer. You may believe it or not, it is true. This is an out-of-laboratory solution, so working in a financial institution located in southern Poland, and you can reset the configuration. So no advanced tools, no IT tools, right? A pencil, you can reset the configuration, you can provide the admin data, you can go and manipulate this configuration. So simple. Let's move further. Well, I do remember this project. It was 15 years ago. We were introducing biometrics here in Wrocław, in one of the organizations. And what do we have here? We have a solution, and we have a database, sure, located at the server side. But the question is related to the security of data which is transformed. So still a database and the network access. And how about the attacks which can be performed? And the last one is the database itself. I've mentioned yesterday about the performance. We've been implementing biometrics in Poland for more than 20 years, and I do understand the challenge, and I think one of them very important is related to the database and the security of the data which is stored. Have you heard about it? So the biometrics as a module in your ATM machine. Do you agree or not? Are you in favor or against? And people, well, I'm asking people about it. People are saying no, because I cannot change my biometric data. I can provide new password, but how about the biometric characteristics of my finger or finger vein, whatever you pick? And they are correct. So if you start our journey related to the database security and think from a given perspective, like I've tried to start this talk today, you are going to see this in a broader picture. I think it is crucial to understand that if we are defending the database, we are not just thinking about the data platform or the database itself. Obvious, but I would like to emphasize this, that we are going to focus on a given solution, we'll put a human inside, and we are going to evaluate the solution, and the security is not just the only one criteria. You do remember those times where security experts were invited and asked, how about the security of this database, of this web application? So we were invited at the end. So we have currently yellow teams, right? We have the paradigm shift. I'm at the very beginning. That's good. And if you think about the database and starting with the phase of design, and you're thinking about security upfront, it's a good choice. So my research, you may say, interesting or not, but I think the interesting part is related to this. I'm not sure whether you have had the chance to listen to this great talk. Mikko Hipponen provided the talk entitled Fighting Viruses, Defending the Net. And it was an inspiration to my talk. I want you to start and think about a bigger picture as well as understand this. Last time when I was in a one room with Mikko Hipponen, he was delivering the talk with this slide presented here. Money is data. So I believe we have to conclude that it is crucial to work on a high-level view of our security aspects, and of course to cover the low-level aspects. Is there any of you who have attended the last year session during this conference? The session was provided by my friend, the member of our association, Jakub Pluszczak. Okay, he's a red team operator. Okay, a great guy. I think it's good, but we cover those aspects related to attacks, sure. And how about the blue side? We are running some initiative. This the URL at the bottom, the IT Security Express, during which we are mixing those perspectives. This is the last closing thing related to inspiration. I mean, the three perspectives. And this is the last one. Okay, so we have Bruce Schneier. All right, I met this guy personally during the Confidence Conference, and he has delivered the talk called Security Mirage. And he's been talking about the feeling and the reality. I've just mentioned about my interests, my perspective, my narrow expertise, which is related to biometrics. The biometrics is sub-part of a bigger topic, which is presented here. So we have authentication. And if you grab a bunch of security experts and ask, please choose one, encryption or authentication, I believe a lot of people will say encryption is the priority. It's number one aspect. I must agree, I have to agree that authentication is very, very important. It's at the beginning. So you may think about the security basics, which we are going to talk in a moment, and start, please, with some idea, with some context. I've provided mine. You can picture your context, and I think we're gonna grab and explore the security basics. Okay, so I think at the beginning, you're going to see some topics which are well known, you might be familiar with, but we cannot skip them. The number one is access control. Okay, this is the result of my literature review. So talking about users, authentication, about the authorization, the permissions, privileges, we have to think about the interaction with what? The data platform located on a given server, having a given database. So we will have different layers. We have different user accounts, groups, and all other aspects related with the access control. I think we are all aware that providing a good password policy is crucial. Thinking about the access control, taking a look from the given model, like mentioned here, role-based access control. What about the encryption? As always, we've been talking about yes. First, perform the risk analysis. Next, decide what you would like to encrypt. How about the data addressed? How about the data in transit? So of course it all depends, and the encryption as the second pillar. Maybe again we will be thinking about the sensitive data. I've just mentioned about biometric authentication systems, about our data, personal data, and you have to choose whether you will encrypt or not, and if yes, what mechanism, what procedures, what protocols are you going to use? I do understand this is the high level view, but we have to start from the very beginning, from the basics. Let's move further. We have covered authentication and encryption. What we have next? We have auditing, we have monitoring. Obvious, right? And next, we have vulnerability management. Of course, I think we can explore those aspects in details, but at the very beginning, it's good to have those main parts of the whole system, and after, we're going to deep dive. So, if it is going about the auditing and monitoring, mentioned a few words about authentication, failed login attempts. What is going on if it is going about the database, those changes which are implemented? You know, we are observing the user, the interaction, not just in case of the databases, and it is crucial to understand what is going on and what is an anomaly and what is not. The security patches, we are scanning for vulnerabilities, an obvious thing, right? Not just related to databases. Let's move further because there are more. Backup and recovery. And you may say, of course, we do understand. We have the platform, we have the databases, we have the data, we have the backup procedures up and running. How about the testing? And how about the evaluation of this process? I do understand this is, again, a talk related to the management, the security management, not about technical details, but it is at the very beginning. We have the application security. So if we think about a given scenario, we have a database, we have a given application, and we're thinking about security. How about opening example, so frequently mentioned? So we have a web application, we have a database, and we are considering the major threat, which is called SQL injection, right? This might be a classical or non-classical, whatever. We have to think about those opening principles, about those standards. We have to validate the input. I believe you've heard about it, but it is good to have this application security in front of you. Maybe you will cross-reference to OWASP. I'm not sure whether you have come across very great projects and the results. They have great testing guides. You may see the database as a part of it, as a central point, or as a big infrastructure with database inside. And let's start and think about the application which will be running on maybe a smartphone. This might be a mobile app. Okay, compliance. Just mentioning about the GDPR, but there is more. obvious as well. So interdisciplinary aspect, which is provided here. So we have those basics. And I think those opening information we have to fulfill with some threads that are very popular. So let's talk about the basic ones. Just mentioned about the SQL injection attacks. The unauthorized access, it's here. We are patching our data platforms in order to prevent the third group presented here. All right, we have some attacks, we have malware. Finally, the biggest threat, please relate to the reports, we have the ransomware and we have to protect from this. Okay, so any other threats? Sure, the insider threat. It's a challenging task. Whether you, let's think about the onboarding process. I think it's very good performed at very companies and in many companies. And how about the offboarding? So I am exiting the organization. And how about the activities that I am capable to perform to prevent them? A challenging task, isn't it? Data breaches. We've heard about it all and over again. Have you heard about the BetCyber portal? Adam Hartle has provided the English version called BetCyber, and if it is going about the Polish version, Zaufana trzecia strona, right? The weekendowa lektura, we can grab a lot of information from the history what happened in the case of data breaches. There are, of course, denial of service attacks, and finally, think about the database and a database server located on a given hardware platform. Maybe next time we have to think about the perspective of a SQL server which will be on the edge or in the cloud. I'm starting with the principles, right, with the basics, and we have not to stop here. We have to move further. We have the countermeasures. So using the red font, we have the threats, and we have the countermeasures provided here. I will go through them very quickly. So we have this to implement secure coding practices, okay? Implement strong access controls. That's for sure. We have it more. About data breaches and insider threats, do not forget to provide the confidentiality for the data which is stored and which is transferred. We have to think about the malware and ransomware, and frequently we are talking about the scenario which has been completed. I mean, the ransomware has taken our infrastructure. We have to time travel. We have to go back from this, maybe to restore from the backup, right? The frequent obvious solution. And the challenging task related with the detection or prevention of such attacks. Okay, so we have those countermeasures, and there are more which are provided here. I think not to forget about such basic solutions as implementing your firewall, implementing your intrusion detection system. I think those database security basics are just the chosen ones, but we have to go through those major and obvious solutions in order to provide some additional topics and aspects related to security. I love to read, and I must say that I have my favorite publishing houses, and one of them is Springer. Okay, I've just mentioned that during my activities performed at my university, I am going through the research aspects, and one of the key tasks, research tasks, is related to grab the current state of the art. And you have 3 selected books. Of course, they are chosen from different points of time, and we're starting with the first. I will go through this very briefly, how it was some years ago. You can see the basics about the architecture and about the access control. Let's quickly go through this first resource, thinking about an architecture. So a database solution, an access control, connected components, and again, authentication and encryption at the basics. Let's move further. We have the second book, and this is quite new one, and there are some interesting topics presented here. I've just selected 3 of them related to querying encrypted data, the database watermarking, and so-called Hippocratic databases. I want to inspire you to explore those resources. Maybe you will find this as not necessary topics at the moment, but maybe later you will say, okay, this is quite interesting. So we have a client side, we have a server side, we have a user, and we have to query for encrypted data. We can think about the steganography. It's a very interesting area. And how about the steganography which will be related to databases? So we want to watermark a database. Maybe it will be crucial from our perspective to provide the answer to the question about the authenticity of a database. This schema is very simple. I will not provide low-level details. You can see how does it work. Of course, this might be an interesting challenge, maybe as interesting as this one. Hippocratic databases. Have you heard about this class of database system, which is focused on privacy and security? I will provide you with the characteristics. Okay, just let's grab some of them. So we are thinking about the minimum necessary for accomplishing the specified purpose if it is going about the use of personal information. Okay, referencing GDPR. Right, we are going to watch the queries which are run. We are going to talk about the data which should be not communicated outside of the database. There are other requirements, like the personal information will be retained only as long as necessary. I think this is a very inspirational aspect related to security. And the last one, if you kindly allow me to provide the newest literature item. And what you can see here, a general overview. You can see here the database management system, the operating system, the network, and you can see those components which are presented here. And again, nothing new. User accounts, password security, access permission, and other aspects. I think that those basics are the opening chapter of our considerations, and we have to think about other aspects as well, maybe to have a low-level analysis of, I don't know, fine-grained permissions management. Okay, we have closed this part of the presentation. If you would like to add some comments or questions, please go ahead. We have now the point related to attacks. So, what are the popular attacks to Microsoft SQL Server? So, we have a list here. I have enumerated the most popular ones. Starting with the brute force attacks, we have denial of service, malware attacks, we have man in the middle, we have privilege escalation, we have finally SQL injection attacks, a classical catalog. And this is just the opening list, and maybe we can reference our experiences. You know what I'm talking about? We have the catalog of possible attacks. But how about our own experience? What are the real-life examples? I found a source, one article, one blog post actually, and 3 mentioned there were, like the direct connections via the internet. Next, the case of the attempts of cracking the password of the user, of a privileged user, and we have SQL injection. I believe there are others. And maybe this will be a good topic to discuss after the talk. Who knows? Maybe it will be good for a workshop. How about the news? Have you heard about the Cobalt strike? Probably, yes. If not, we have such software. We have the famous port 1433, and the attack starts with the scanning for servers with open port. I'm not sure whether you are performing scans at your end. I mean, running the reconnaissance phase using the Shodan, for example, or Census or other platforms in order to provide the answer about the visibility of your infrastructure in the internet. So we have pinpointed a SQL Server via such a query, and next we are carry out the brute force attack or dictionary attack to crack the password. Okay, and there is a next phase where you can think about a part of software will be used for further phase of attack for the lateral movement. So Microsoft SQL Server and the opening, please do not omit this one. Your instance of Microsoft SQL Server was pinpointed, was found by a query because it has an opened TCP port number 1433. And there is a tool, Cobalt Strike, which you can use. How about this news? This is the April 19, 2023. Have you heard about the Trigona ransomware? So again, poorly secured and internet exposed Microsoft SQL Server. I think we have all feel disappointed. I feel disappointed about it, about the schema, about the innovation that is behind. It's so simple to grab the conclusion from the lesson learned from the field. So if you secure the network layer, I believe this won't be possible to deploy the ransomware. The attacks may be performed because we are wishing them to be performed. So why not think from the pentester perspective? Have you heard about the hack tricks? If you are willing to explore more than just the aspect related to database security, let me please move to this portal. Yes, I will provide you. This is the hack tricks. On the left, you have the methodologies and the resources. We have the Wi-Fi, we have network, we have brute force, we have Python. There are a lot of them. And one which is related here, presented here, is related to pen testing Microsoft SQL Server. Just to share with you one source related to attacks, like the attack which is presented here. We have the brute force, and maybe it will be good to follow this path if it is going about this attack aspect. There are more. We've just mentioned about the Cobalt Strike. How about the Metasploit? We have this out of the box. You may go and use those pen testing tools in order to provide the answer about the results of an attack that will be performed by our team. Red teaming, a very nice resource, and I will provide a glimpse in a second. So we have the red teaming Microsoft SQL Server. Yeah, but not to focus on this for a long time. We have the fundamentals, Windows accounts, we have the SQL Server logins, we have the database users, we have the common roles, and finally, we have exact tools which can be used in order to grab the information about the security posture of a given Microsoft SQL Server. I do understand that it is just a glimpse, right? I'm just like providing a basic information that we have some methodologies and some tools which can be used, but let's start with this. And next is the question related to use those methodologies and tools in practice. So red teaming, I think it's a good approach, the red one. And of course, you can provide the answer to the question that I am posing here. So if it is going about the pen testing technique, resource, tool, what would you recommend? So this is an open question. Maybe there will be some answers provided from this room or online during the chat, who knows. But I believe we do have a chance to provide more interesting information if it is going about the red side of security. How about the countermeasures? So we're going to switch to the blue side. Okay, so blue teaming in action and just pinpointing those basics. Authentication, right? We are defending, just referencing this red teaming, but from our perspective, which is blue. We have to think about authorization. What we have here, encryption. We have auditing and monitoring. Do you see that those countermeasures which are provided by the experts, and I have gathered the basic ones, they are corresponding to the database basics, right? Maybe it differs if it is going about some technical details, but the main aspects are the same. We have the database level firewall, and of course, I think there are some countermeasures which can be provided from your experience, and I encourage you to discuss about it. Okay, let's finish with some best practices. I want you to have a chance to have a discussion about your experiences related to database security. I do understand that frequently it's not very good to talk or to write about it during public meetings, but maybe face-to-face perspective or convention will be good. The best practices. Okay, so ensure that all user accounts have strong passwords. Yes, use Microsoft Factor Authentication. Yesterday, Tomek Onyszko, maybe you have met this guy, were delivering the talk about his hobby. We have 15 years of a special community related to Microsoft. And I do remember Tomek Onyszko during the Microsoft Expert Summit saying, if it is going about security, about the Azure security, do not forget to complete just one task. Implement multi-factor authentication. So nothing new, you may say it's obvious, but do not forget about those aspects. About the permissions, to think about them, to implement, to evaluate. It's a good practice as well, or set of practices. Good practices related to encryption, keeping your data platform up to date. Provide monitoring tools, secure the network connections, provide the appropriate rules to your firewalls. I think there is a reason for having more than one. The configuration of the platform. This is universal, right? Unnecessary features shall be removed. And if it is going about the backup, do not forget to complete those tasks. There are other best practices. I have referenced one database security expert who has provided such 6 best practices. Let's go through them briefly. Passwords, firewalls, non-essential software, disabling the browser service. I think that's the first category. The updates and monitoring. Nothing new. This is built not based on the literature, but on the experience. Again, I think it's good to back to the roots. I know, Microsoft Learn at my level, okay, this is the SQL day or database experts. But I think if we got and think about the security SQL Server security best practices, there might be some points which will be briefly covered here, which will be useful from your perspective. Or maybe we'll start with this as an opening resource. Who knows? Maybe it will be good to provide a SQL Server security checklist. I'm a lead auditor, but I was an internal auditor for many years, and I must say that we have relied on checklists. I'm not sure whether you have come across such a security checklist related to database platform, but what is very important, what you can see here, we have not just the bullet point, right? Who has access to the server? Check it. No, we have a source code that you can use as well. I think a good input for the workshop. Okay, a nice resource. Any other good practices? I do not have an input from the chat online, but I will check this in a moment. Any comments? Okay, maybe there will be more, but later. To provide a brief summary, we have to start with the bigger context. I've mentioned about my interests. So a database platform as a part of a networked authentication system which is using the biometric trace and thinking about the security standards or requirements, starting with the use of the system. You do remember the ATM machine equipped with the biometric module and the human, and we have a lot of those ATM machines, and covering not just the classical technical aspects of protecting the database, of providing the security. So we have a bigger context. Next, I think it's good to grab the bigger picture. It won't be just the database platform. We're thinking about the infrastructure, of course, not omitting the part of having a deep dive into the security aspects of the given database, platform, and the database itself. And how about the data security? We have to think about the risk analysis, grab the results, and implement those countermeasures which are justified. My contention is that it's good that we evaluate, that we follow some best practices, read about the attacks, think about the threats, constantly evaluate, and provide the feedback and improvement to the security of a database. I'm pretty sure you're aware that this is an open challenge to the people, and I bet that all of you here in this room, and maybe all of the people which are listening to the talk by internet, we are on the good side. But imagine that we have those people with the skills. During my classes, I met a lot of talented students. So they have skills, but they do not have opportunities, and we have to give the opportunities related to security so that we can use the skills for good. My closing final thought was inspired by the closing minutes of the talk provided by Mikko Hipponen. This man has provided us with the law, so-called Hipponen's law, that if something is smart, it's also vulnerable. And I believe if we think about a given solution and we take a look at the architecture, we can see there a database. a database platform, and maybe this will be a Microsoft SQL Server. And I believe it will be good if we explore those database security aspects again. All right, so closing this talk with this one private photo, I think it's an ongoing aspect. So thinking about the database security and not just about this topic. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, and if you would like to contact me, yes, this is the Discord user ID, and we have this QR code leading to my LinkedIn profile. So I think what should happen next is to interact and maybe meet together and have some workshop. I don't know, whatever you pick. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best.